Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. For today's video, I wanted to talk to you about energy transference and identity shifting with the narcissist, so let's jump in. So I want to attempt to start fresh with this from the very beginning, so maybe I can give you a better idea of how this works. When you meet the narcissist, and a lot of times what may connect you to the narcissist, not only do you have that stuff in maybe your past caregivers, yes, but maybe you kind of built enough boundaries and vibrated high and you were independent to be able to take care of everything. You were on your own doing everything. But a lot of times they talk about revenue overload, which in hospitalization would be more or less a lot of big things that occur in your life cause you to be in the sunken place. And during the time that you're in the sunken place is when you will run into the narcissist and you'll be on a low vibration. You will be vibrating on their level more than where you were before. And that will get you connected to the narcissist. And I think that's what happened to me. And what I found from a little research myself and talking with people, it seems to be two things that will have occurred. Maybe two deaths of special people in your life, or for me, it was a death and a divorce. And a couple of other small things or things maybe connected to that led to me being low for quite a while. And I was trying to get over some of that. That's when I met the narcissist. But nevertheless, they come in vulnerable, and typically they'll come in vulnerable and they'll be all acceptance of you. Of course, they don't tell you much, and it's like pulling teeth from them, but you'll hear a story from them during the early onset, which is called an empathy check, where they act very vulnerable and tell you a couple of stories about how they were maybe used or abused in their past, or by their ex-partners, or by their family member, or whatever. And you kind of feel that they're being ultra vulnerable to you. So then you will kind of pour your heart out and tell them all the things that happened in your life. That kind of goes with equal reciprocity, you know. If you're a just individual, you're going to want to give somebody the equal respect. And so you do. But later to find out that with that came also the data mining, where they ask you a bunch of questions. For me, it was probably 2 hours with straight questions, and it was really weird to me. But nevertheless, you know, you kind of do take it a little bit like flattery. And then for me, I took it a little bit like flattery and a little weird, a little robotic. They do many tests when you meet them. Another test is they may cancel plans with you early on to see how you take that, to see if you get upset and how you handle that. I think that's more of like a safety check. Then they do an empathy check to see what's your depths of caring. Then they data mine. Will also start to repair and build this mask for you. Then they will have intercourse real fast. These are all things to get you hooked and to find out if you're a safe person for them to be around, because a lot of times they can get around, or have in the past got around, maybe people that because of the way they act, they had a lot of vengeance come to them, which I would expect if I was operating that way, to walk in falsehood. But nevertheless, they get you hooked, and then they build you up on a pedestal, and that gets you an ego because they kind of worship you, they praise you and tell you how great you are. And then a lot of times you'll eat it up and it'll feel good. But what that does, it takes you from your higher self, your spirit man, into your ego. The first step, them taking control of you. Well, first it's the love and the trust and the intercourse. Then from there, they will put you on a pedestal and praise and worship you because of the infatuation, and you're going to solve all their problems. If they lack foresight, so they don't learn from their past mistakes. It's like they just continue to cycle and do the same thing, and they don't learn. But what they do is they have that white and black thinking, so you're either all perfect or all evil or all bad. You're either all good or no good. But right then, you're all good, and they put you on a pedestal, then you do the same thing back. You'll eventually, and this isn't love bomb phase, you'll pretty much love bomb them back. You will put them on a pedestal because they're actually mirroring you to yourself. They'll ask you questions about what you really want out of a relationship, and then you'll answer them, and they will say things that are weird, like, okay, I can do that, or I can fulfill that for you. Then you're headlong in a relationship with them. You think it's a relationship is more like a transaction ship. And you may get inklings of red flags, but you're shutting them down, you're turning them off because you're in your flesh. Your mind, will, and your emotions, and instead of thinking from your higher self with your intellect, you're letting your heart do the thinking for you. And that's what happens when you get into your flesh. You do emotional thinking, and emotional thinking can be hijacked to where your intellect can't be, because you're going to be thinking from a standpoint without feelings involved. So it's going to be the whole picture and the best way of dealing with it when you're thinking from intellect. So that's like what we say when we say think from your mind and stop thinking from your heart, because that's what they want you to do, because they know they can hijack you in your emotional field when they're playing with you and lying and faking to you. And we've learned to believe the actions over the words because they weren't really matching. But with all the love bombing, we ran it all over. But the good thing is once you awaken to this, you can't go back to sleep. Once you have found your way out or understand the flags and know that they operate this particular way, you won't be blindsided again. It's kind of almost like until you're ready, you can't have the scales taken off your eyes to see what's truly going on. That's where they call them the rose-colored glasses. Shortly after you put them on a pedestal and you love them and you show them everything and you feel great for just maybe a month. But you also will get future faked usually because they want to marry you. So they'll tell you they want to marry you right away, whenever you want. That's what mine told me. Whenever you're ready. I'm ready to marry you whenever you're ready. But this is all planned, y'all. They do all these things just to get where they want to get in your life, just to get positioned where they want to get placed and positioned in your life. They serve you and they pamper you, and so you give that back as well. And what they're doing is training you on how they want to be treated. But then shortly thereafter, maybe you slight them, maybe they get bored, maybe your energy runs low, maybe they've met a new source of supply. But something along those lines will occur because they're very impulsive and they get bored very easily. And they don't love, and they don't have loyalty, and they don't suffer along with anybody. They don't have good self-control, and they don't have the fruits of the Spirit. So without the fruits of the Spirit, there is no love, there is no anything. There's nothing good. But they'll put you on a pedestal and they'll build you up, and then after you slight them, you start to get into these little ground rules where you're walking on eggshells and they don't like this and they don't like that, and you want to satisfy them. Because if you don't, what tends to happen is you get silent treatment or rage, or you may even get ghosted for a couple days, and you don't like any of that, so you want to accommodate. And because they're entitled, you feel if you've been a people pleaser before, or you like to avoid confrontation, a lot of times you will be quick to accommodate. And this is something that you were groomed for in your family unit, because you were accommodating somebody in your family that was a caregiver. You were just obeying, and probably if you question them, you either get in trouble, grounded, or told that you were questioning authority. You might get reprimanded, and it would be a harsh judge that would come down on you. So after a while, as a child, you quit trying to process your thoughts with them, because if it's not their way, then it's no way. And if you question their way, then it's going to cause major conflict that's going to be hurtful to you, and you're still not going to get anywhere. So a lot of times you learn to keep your mouth shut and just do as you're told. And it's a shame, but this is how, as a child, I found that I had gotten caught up in this, either people pleasing or to avoid conflict, just leave it alone. And that's what makes you a lot of times have to wear your own mask as an empath in a narcissistic family unit. Because you won't get anywhere except hurt and pain if you tell the truth and if you're always upfront with somebody who's in a narcissistic hierarchy. So the difference between you wearing a mask and a narcissist wearing a mask as a child would be that they actually try to perfect it and they enjoy it. And this is what happens. The person who becomes a narcissist in a family unit or a child that becomes a narcissist, a lot of times it's because they resonate with the narcissist, with the abuser. And a lot of times they don't get to a place to where they process their emotions like you do. So there's people that look for solving the question, finding the answer, and what's the best route and way to go about it, and how is the righteous way of doing it. But in the narcissist family, they try to teach you not to process things as much as possible. Just do as you're told, don't think about it. They even tell you don't think, just do it. And that's like something that's not a good thing to say. It's not in a typical family, I don't believe. So what you end up doing is just what they call the herd mentality is kind of like what you end up living by, which is whatever the cattle are doing out there in the world, then you're going to be one of the cattle as well. And that's to say that you don't really think, you don't process, and you don't have ethics that have firmly been placed and formed in your life, because if you don't process things, then you will only be what your mind, will, and emotions will be, and you'll never have cracked into your spirit man. And you have to crack into that. You see, your spirit man is available, but until you break through that ceiling, it's almost like you have to want more, and you have to process deep at some point in time to get to a place to where you will bust through the ceiling of just your mind, will, and emotions and your flesh to get to your spirit man. And that's what leads you to thinking about other things, like more deeply about your future and heaven and hell and finding God and those types of things. But that's what will lead you to repentance, salvation, goodness, and godliness. But you have to start to process things. And a lot of times people don't process things. That's why you see the herd mentality. It's just, this is what everybody's doing, so we are doing it too. And that's kind of what you find in the narcissist family a lot. But after you go through some of these things, these turmoils where they put stress on you, they isolate you, they start to belittle you, they put rules on you, they tell you how you're doing everything wrong, and you're just accepting it and trying to people please them. You're trying to accommodate. You cannot accommodate for evil. When you make evil comfortable, you have a problem. And that's what happens when you people please and accommodate something that's evil. Then you make it comfortable. Then it takes control over you and power over you. And they start to cause confusion because, you know, their words don't meet their actions. They'll be disappearing at times when you feel like they should be with you, or their narratives don't match up, don't seem right. And they just have a way of squirming at everything, and everything's fogged up. And one of the things that gets them to steal your identity is, first, it's to get you confused and fogged up and off center. Second is to get you in your emotions and out of your spirit man. So you're not thinking from your intellect, but you're thinking from your heart. Your heart is telling your brain what to do. That should never be. You're playing checkers and they're playing chess on you. So to play chess back with them, you have to get back into thinking from your higher self. But that usually takes some sort of trauma or some sort of betrayal. So they get you in your emotions. And this is because these are things that have worked on them. If you ever wanted to control a narcissist for a short period of time, if you just love bomb them and adorn them and admire them a whole lot, they will eat it up and walk right into a trap. And I'm not saying you should do that, but I'm just saying that people have done these things to them before in their past. And so they know that what works on them will work on you. And they know that love bombing works, because love bombing is that. It's to adore and to admire heavily, because it works on them. If you do that to a narcissist and you want to get your way for a short period of time to try to get something accomplished, and you got to find a way to do it. If you did that, it works, but I'm not telling you to do that. I'm just trying to discuss the pathology. So they know that that works on them, so they plan to do it to you to get you in your emotions. But they don't have a higher self. The other thing that they do is they make it hard for you, because normally you will judge somebody by their character. Over time, you will find out their character, and you'll be like, well, I know that this person's not good for me, so you'll leave them. I mean, we're talking about a regular person. Or, well, I know if I leave them, they're not going to do the laundry even though I asked them. So, you know certain things and you learn certain things from an individual by their character. The problem is the narcissist is never vulnerable. So because the narcissist is not vulnerable, you don't know their character. And it's so confusing because they keep turning it upside down on you. And the more that you get your life turned upside down by confusion, by words not matching their actions, but then they're still doubling down and lying to you and gaslighting and these types of things, and then belittling you or telling you that you did it wrong when you did it right. Or they could move some of your items like your keys in the house and tell you they didn't move them. You're tripping. Just things that will get you off kilter to where you almost don't believe in yourself anymore. You start to look to validation from them. And then what they'll do also is they'll give you a whole lot of indifference. And when they give you the indifference, then you feel like you want to work harder at some point to get their approval. And then you get to walking on eggshells because they've raged out several times or ghosted you and you didn't like that. Or silent treatment to you for several days, and you didn't like that. So you would try to avoid those times. But then what also happens through all of that stress and all of that confusion and all of that self-doubt, you get to a place to where you get very clumsy, where you would need to be clutch. Like they used to say, Michael Jordan was clutch. Whenever he needed to make a basket to win the game, he could do it. That's how you get to where you freeze up when you need to be able to move around and to get things done, and you start to screw up things because you feel like you're always doing it wrong. You're always second guessing. You always question yourself and you don't believe in yourself anymore. You almost need validation before you can go to the mailbox to collect the mail. So it brings on anxiety and depression and paranoia, all these things. Really start looking to the narcissist for answers, and this is what they want. This is how they get their full power and control over you. As you're doing all of these things, they're chipping away at your self-esteem and your self-worth. And as they continue to break you down, they're switching energy with you. And they're also mirroring back to you at times intermittent reinforcement, which is where hot and cold, which is getting your endocrine system mixed up. And it's getting you to where you need another hit of dopamine and serotonin. When they hit you with love or goodness, then it feels so good. And it gives you a hit of dopamine and serotonin. And then you have the cortisol would hit you when you're depressed and you haven't gotten a hit in a while, and then you need another hit. So that's how they get you addicted to them, through this hot and this cold. And then they will play this game where they will leave you. They will ghost you for a few days and see how long it takes for you to get back to them. If you resume your life and you don't call them, you're not too concerned, then they got to come back and love bomb you again. They got to get you hooked, and that's a hook tester. So they'll come back and love bomb you a little bit more and give you the hot and the cold, the stick. They'll hit you with the stick and give you the carrot. And then they'll hit you with the stick and give you the carrot. And then once they get you fully hooked, then they pretty much will get to a point to where they'll start to cheat on you. Then you may catch them, or you will feel the energy on them, start to know this is what's occurring. So you'll question it, and they'll gaslight you, and they'll double down on it. And then they'll belittle you heavily because you're already hurt, you're already looking to them, you've already been pouring out all your fuel to them. Toward the end of this cycle, you will get to a place where you'll either catch them cheating, or you'll get into some sort of argument or some disagreement where you're wearing the moral fiber, but they're just destroying you and you're letting them. And you will just you'll start to accept things that aren't yours, they're energies. And then having intercourse with somebody just that really hurts your energy field, your aura. Because you go into covenant with an evildoer, somebody you're unequally yoked with. This is the burden that you have to pay. And it comes with much sadness and much grief, much hurt and pain and heartbreak. And the longer you continue down this road, it takes your money and your looks. It takes your vitality and it takes your health, even starting to get autoimmune diseases, or start to get heartburn and blood pressure going up. You can be a completely healthy person, but because these things are attacking you, you're getting attacked energetically, spiritually, psychologically, and emotionally. And it starts to turn into you feeling it and looking like it in the physical form. They say you look like on the outside by the time they're done with you, like they look like on the inside. And so what they're doing is they're switching energy with you every time, and they're mirroring back to you pieces of you that you want to see, so it makes you feel like they're trustworthy and someone you can trust, confide in, but they're not. That's why you continue to stay with them. And as you pour your heart out, toward the end, they will just destroy you whenever you catch them in lies and in deceit, and catch them cheating on you or whatever, then they will tell you all these evil things about you, and you'll just give them all of your fuel. You'll just dump it out, and you'll accept and absorb all of this. It's unbeknownst to you. They'll have you in reactive abuse, and you'll have accepted things through shame, through guilt. That's not even yours. And you were taught to do this in childhood. You were absorbing a lot of your family's energy that was negative so that you can give them fuel. And so you get groomed. If you don't become a narcissist, you become a narcissist regulator in the home, emotional regulator. And so you're used to doing these things, and then you have the ability to regenerate and to heal up faster than the normal average person, because see, this became a way of life. And that's why they like people that grew up in these types of families like they did, because they know that you're going to recover quickly. They know that you will absorb and that you will please them and that you will treat them like a king or a queen. You will do all the work, and you will admire them and adore them. You will give them safety and security, and you will protect them. You love heavily. They know that you're willing to apologize when it's not your fault, and that gives your energy away. And you're willing to forgive a lot, to continue to take them back. And they inflame anything in your life that you had. So if you had a little codependency, a little fear of that, you're gonna have a lot of it. But at the end, when they get in that big old fight and they leave you, okay, it's because if they stay with you any longer, because your fuel's running low, you're gonna start to clap back with them. When they clap at you, you clap right back. Like, you're the one. It's not me, okay? And you wouldn't do this in the very beginning. And maybe you should have, because this relationship wouldn't have lasted as long as it did. But you didn't, because you cared and you wanted to give them grace. And that's what happens. The empath wants to give people too much grace. And you want to give them the benefit of the doubt, but you can't do that. You start to absorb all that negative energy from them telling you all these horrible things when they leave, finally, at the end. They have a big old fight to try to get you to react. You usually walk into reaction, and then they tell you all this negative stuff, and you absorb it like a sponge. And you're just pouring your heart out because you want to get them to understand, but there's so much indifference. So many times you're trying to say things and they're not getting it. It's frustrating. You really want to pour into them so they get where you're coming from, or you feel like they have you misunderstood. They have an opinion about you, but you can't seem to get across that you're not that person they're telling you you are. So you're really trying to convince them, and it's not working. So you pour your heart out more and more, and then you absorb all that negative energy. And when you get deep down into that energy, it's just like I said yesterday, it's like a jar. Top layer of the jar is your emotional energy that you hurt my feelings. Maybe the middle layer is you cheated on me. And the bottom layer is where the nutrients of that jar that's holding, that container holding your emotions, your emotional field. And at the bottom is really where it has sediment. It has all the nutrients lay. And as you get winded and as you get weak to these things, you start to pour even that out. It's like you're hyperventilating and you have no energy, and they just broke you down. And when you pour that out at the end, that's your identity. That's how they steal your identity. That houses in it and embodies the identity in your emotional field. And this is what they want to do. They have a slow, incremental way of breaking you down low enough to where you're pouring your heart out more and more and more, and your energy level is coming down as well with it. Your vibration's coming down, your aura is falling apart. You have all these leaks in your aura field, in the field of your emotional field, and you're being attacked from everywhere, and it's just leaking all over the place. And then you give them that. And that's why when they leave you and they ghost you and they're with somebody else the next day and they don't give a damn about you, it makes it worse. You think that would be the worst, but you're paranoid. See, they pour it because you absorbed all that negative energy. It's an energy transference. And this is because you spiritually agreed to these covenants, contracts, and consents to be with an evildoer. That's what happens. So they steal your identity because they don't have an identity. So they pour into you at that moment in time as they take your fuel that has your nutrients of your emotions, your fingerprint of who you are. They pour into you all their negativity, not just the belittling, not just the slights, not just the indifference, not just the rage, but then you get the betrayal, you get the paranoia, You get the grit of their evil and all the stuff. See, all the stuff, they don't have an identity, so you don't get their identity. But what their identity is just all the evil stuff that they have done. And so you start to get, maybe even their addictions may come in that emotional field, because they say that they can quit addictions during that cycle period for a time. So they quit their addictions because they're wearing your fuel and you weren't addicted to it. But then when they pour into you all that negative energy, when they leave you, finally, at the end of cycle 1 or cycle 2 or cycle 3, now you have absorbed their fuel of their emotional field of maybe their addictions, parts of their evil ways and tracks, all of the betrayal that they have placed on people in the most recent months, all of the cheating, the lying, the stealing, all of the vengeance and all of the jealousy and hate, anger that they have, that's what they throw into you. And then all of your good soul energy goes into them. They give you all their sin soul energy. So they leave you and they're fine, they're happy, they're with somebody else, they're living it up. Their vitality is great, everything's going well for them. They've smeared your name, they've character assassinated you, and you're wondering, how could this be? You're paranoid. You can't even go to the grocery store. I went to the store one day during that time, and I had stuff in my cart. It was Home Depot. I went to Home Depot and I had stuff in my cart, and I almost wanted to run out of there. I was so paranoid and I couldn't wait to get home. And these are feelings that you get, just anxiety and paranoia and just deep, deep, dark depression. You just don't know who you are anymore. You just want them, probably because you're drawn to your energy. That's part of it. Because they stole all of your energy. That identity, your identity is with them. And when they smear your name and smear your character, really, because you have absorbed all of them, who they are, and they have absorbed all of who you are, they're actually character assassinating themselves. And that's easy because they know who they are, they know what they've done, but they tell everybody you did it to them. And because they're wearing your good fuel, people will believe it, because that's trustworthy fuel they're wearing, that's yours. But they took it from you, and now you're wearing theirs, and you look like a thief, a liar, and a cheat. I probably have feelings of that. And what happens is they're out there now seducing other people with your fuel, your identity. So you have to pay because you went in a covenant with them. So you're reaping what you're sowing negatively for that. Then they stole your energy, and they're using it to destroy other people and take down other sources of supply and to lie and to cheat with it. And it works really good for that squeaky clean mask because they have truthful energy. They're wearing your identity. And they're acting like you and mimicking you, and whatever addictions they have, they put them on pause for a while. And maybe you're feeling those addictions, so you're not doing those things, but you're annoyed and angry and upset, pissed off, depressed, anxious, paranoid. And so with that, you start acting all weird. And people start really questioning you. And then they start to believe the narcissist because you're acting out of sorts. They look like Mother Teresa, and they've done it all behind closed doors. All the devaluing and destroying happens when the doors are shut, the windows are closed, the shades are pulled and the blinds are shut and the doors are locked. They don't do it out and about. In fact, if they do it out and about, it's just to try to get you to react. Or they'll dog whistle you, they call it. Or they'll talk about a subject and they're describing something and only you and them know that they're talking to you and you get it. Nobody else knows but you. And this is how it works. So now you're down in the dumps and you could go out to the store or to the restaurant and now you're on a completely in narchood because you're wearing all of their fuel. And they're like, they're wearing empathic fuel to the level of you. So they're gonna have good things come to them. They're attracting good things. You're attracting negative things. So negative people come to you and you may have energy of it. That is to collect vengeance and to have jealousy come at you and all these things come at you. Hate, anger for all the things that they have done, but you're wearing it. So now you may have evildoers come to you, try to attack you, to verbally abuse you, to cause fights and arguments with you at the grocery store. Then you may be annoyed and angry. You could be paranoid, depressed. So you're going to act in certain sort of ways that you don't normally act. And you got to find a way to deal with this negative energy that you have on you. Now, and then you start to chase them and they put you in triangulation. And you want them to understand that you're not the person that they think and have imagined that you are. You want them to understand who you really are. But then because you're also an ego and you're in your emotional field and they have hijacked it, now you are getting to a place to where you're trying to act like you think they might think is appealing. And you're wearing all this negative energy. You're wearing all this energy that is all narc energy. So of course you're going to be thinking heavily in the flesh. And then they breadcrumb you. And then when they come back, they'll give you a little hot and cold over several months later or whatever. They'll come back if you let them in, and you know, they'll degrade you some more, and they'll give you a little bit here and a little bit there. They want to have a relationship, but they don't want to call it anything. It's almost like an open relationship, something weird. And then before you know it, you let all your boundaries down and give them full control to everything. You just want to be able to see them as much as you can. And this is how they get complete control and power over you and knock you down to a loaf of bread, a morsel of bread, I think it says in Proverbs. And then you're walking on that narc energy, you know, when they come back and they do this energy shift, identity shift with you again, because it doesn't last forever. I don't know how long it lasts. Maybe it's up to 3 months. Maybe it's up to a month. I don't know. But eventually they cycle back around because that witchcraft wears off and they got to reinstitute that witchery, that curse on your life. And because you keep accepting it until you deny it and start to think with your higher self. But a lot of times you have to have heavy betrayal occur that will spark that to where you'll say no more. And until that happens, they keep coming back and switching that identity with you and stealing it out from under you and throwing all that negative energy on you. You can get in really detrimental problems. You can get hurt. You can get injured. You can be on unemployment line. You could be losing your house. You could be losing everything. You could be into addictions yourself now because you're trying to self-medicate. And this is where they want you. And this is why they stalk you. To see if you've recovered. They want you down and out. And if you've recovered, they want to come back and steal that fuel again because they don't want anybody else to get it. Meanwhile, you're isolating. And that makes it worse because this is the time where you really need to get out and be with good people. But instead, you're isolating because that's what you were taught to do. Or that's because you've been burned down and hurt so bad by people you don't want to see anybody. And if you continue to let them come back and steal your identity, and again, you'll get further away from who you are to where you don't even know how to find your way back. It's hard. And that's why you want to think from your emotional field, because that's what even the church would say. When you're thinking in your emotions can tell you the wrong thing, because that's part of your carnality. Your mind, will, and emotions and your flesh, your avatar, can be used against you all the time. Those are the things that fight against your spirit man all the time. That's your lower self fighting against your higher self, which is your innate true self that's always empowered when you get saved by the Holy Ghost. That's what actually holds the love and the joy and the peace in it, and your inside voice. That's why when the narcissist loses their higher self for the false self, they lose their innate spirit man. They don't know who, they're not anybody anymore. They're just a lie. So they run around and copycat by stealing identity after identity after identity. And they have many people to cycle through, because by the time they cycle out of your identity into somebody else's, you're not going to be fully ready for them to come back yet. And so they're going to go to a second source. Well, they're going to have a second source when that second source is done, though. And they're wearing your energy while they're with source number 2. Now, when they're with source number 3, they're wearing source number 2's energy. And now when source number 3, they're done with them, they may have source number 4 before they come back to you. Or they may go from 1, 2, 3 back to you. Sometimes you'll see that they will go from 2 sources and ping pong back and forth, and then have these sporadic people that they have one-nighters with and stuff, the potentials. This is kind of along the lines of how these tracks work. And they will cycle you through, come back to you. But a lot of times if you're ruminating on them and you're thinking about them all the time, and you have them at the center of your life, you're always thinking about them. That's what they always want. They got to be your God. They got to be at the center, and you're always thinking about them. Then they can draw off you even when they're not with you. But this is just to give you a little more understanding of how this stuff works more fully. I don't think I've ever had it explained like that for myself. But a lot of times a heavy-duty narcissist, a very toxic narcissist, can't go longer than 3 to 4 months. And that's pushing it for a cycle. And cycles don't change, y'all. People think that they're going to find somebody good and settle down, or find somebody better. You're probably the best thing that ever walked into their life. And they're not going to find any better. A lot of times they find a lot of cases that are just a little above them on vibration. And a lot of other crazy things. Like they might find somebody that's way older, like 25, 30 years older. They don't care as long as they can steal the stuff from them. That's why they don't necessarily have a type. They do have preferences, but at the end of the day, when they need fuel, they don't have a type. But that's the deal. They don't change cycles, so don't ever think that there's going to be somebody that's going to be so good to them, so beautiful, that they're going to be willing to stay with them and they're not going to cycle anymore. They're always going to cycle. You could be a millionaire, a billionaire. You could be the best looking person in the whole world and have the best qualities. They're still going to cycle out of your life and come back. It doesn't change. And if it does, then they're just going to be having a fake facade for everybody out and about and cycling in the background. Basically another facade or they'll stay with you, but they'll have people on the side that they will be doing unbeknownst to you and without your knowledge. You know, a narcissist will get with anybody, same sex, opposite sex, they don't care. So supply is supply. So sometimes when you think they're going out with their best friend, they may be doing more than that, male or female. So that's just to give you an idea of really objectively how I believe these things work, and to break it down for you. Leave comments, questions in the comment section. Leave me the comments and let me know what you think, and any questions. Maybe I'll do a part 2. But like, subscribe, and until next time, soldier up, stand tall, peace out, love y'all, we out.